Thank you so much. It's great to be at such a warm gathering, no pun intended. It's brilliant to be here at your Youth Leaders Conference here in the lovely sunny Blackpool in autumn. So as Ben said, my name's Nicola Scott. I'm a really excitable, joyful person, but I did forget to take my jacket off this morning. So if I get a little bit tight or anything like that in these next 10 minutes, then you know why. So this morning, we're going to be talking about how can we lead with love when we're working with our young people through a lens of racial justice. You know, so many children and young people are walking through our doors with different circumstances, different situations, different backgrounds, different heritages, and oftentimes they are walking through carrying things that we don't always know of. Now, when we think about the project that we run, the Shades Project, it's a racial justice and faith project, really rooted in the Bible and our commitment as Christians and as leaders to embrace all that God has asked us to embrace and to really love one another and to really see one another as we're being made in the image and likeness of Jesus. Next slide, please. Next slide. Thank you so much. So what we do at the Shades Project, we envision schools and churches and communities where every child and young person knows that they're made in God's image and finds that sense of belonging. And so that they can grow as followers of Jesus. We celebrate racial diversity, we stand up to racial injustice, and we help everyone to learn, lead, and thrive in faith, love, and discipleship. Now, when we think about the 10 Commandments, you know, some of us are racing and thinking, yes, I am great at meeting those 10 Commandments. And then there are others of us who are like, I'm really stuck at number 1. And when we think about them, some of them are harder to fulfill than others, depending on who we are, depending on our background and our circumstances. But the Bible clearly teaches us that humanity, and especially young people, need the love of Jesus. They need to know that they're both accepted and truly loved by God and the church, including our youth ministries. Now, how I came into this work, it was almost by accident, but it wasn't an accident. It was definitely by divine purpose and God. And it was after a time where in history where we'd really gone through global change, through COVID and Black Lives Matter and the unlawful murder of George Floyd. And so we were at a point as a project where we were asking ourselves some questions. And I remember sharing one of the first times that I, as a black person who was born in this country, first experienced racism. And it was actually in school. And I remember I was walking down the corridors and I remember a teacher shouted at me and he said, "Get those things out of your hair and don't ever come back to school like that again." And I was terrified in that moment and thought that actually there is something very wrong with my afro-textured hair. And so I went on a journey of realizing that my identity could be a problem in different spaces. And it started in the education system. Next slide, please. I want us to just look at this quote. And this will help us in the next 5 minutes of this talk. And it says, the beauty of anti-racism is that you don't have to pretend to be free of racism to be an anti-racist. Anti-racism is the commitment to fight racism wherever you find it, including in yourself, and it is the only way forward. And I want us to just think about this week, wherever we've been, whether we've been doing the Tesco food shop, or whether we've been online, or whether we've been seeing people at work. And I want you to think about who are some of the people that you've come into contact with? How did you engage with them? What were some of the thoughts that crossed your minds? Did you see them the way that you see other people that come from the same race as you? Now, when we think about this quote, and when we think about the title of this talk, Leading with Love Through a Lens of Racial Justice, oftentimes that can be extremely difficult when we don't understand who is in the room and we don't understand their cultural backgrounds. But just to give you a little picture, when you come from a diverse background and you step into a space where most people don't look like you, oftentimes you spend a lot of your of your time trying to think, how can I fit in to the place where I'm at, whether it's a school, whether it's nursery, whether it's church, you're constantly trying to fit in to the majority. And that can take a lot of work. It can be a lot of pressure. And when we're thinking about our young people entering our doors and our spaces, oftentimes they're trying to forget where they've come from in order to be accepted and to find that sense of belonging. So for us as youth leaders in the room, if we understand that these young people are going through all of this just to fit into this one space, then it can't be that much of a job for us to try and learn actually about some of these cultural nuances and about people from the global majority and how some of the challenges that they experience. So I just want to go on to this next slide. These are some of the challenges that some of our young people may be facing. Over-policing, mental health, disruption in the education system, exclusion, and I'm sure we can think of many more of these challenges. Next slide, please. And I'm really sorry that I'm having to rush this. So here we're thinking about cultural humility. And that is being able to understand our own privilege, our own background, our own sense of self, but then not expecting that of every single other young person that walks through our doors. So you may have met somebody like me, but then you may meet somebody else who looks similar to me, but does not have the same background, does not have the same life or lived experiences. And essentially, you're allowing the children and young people to be the own experts of their own identity, rather than assuming that because I know one or two people of Asian heritage from the global majority, then that must mean that everybody has that same level of experience and thinking. And so that means that we have to go on a journey. And you might say, well, my youth group is full of people who are white, European, white English, and therefore I don't really need to know about this kind of information. But if we're preparing young people for the kingdom of God, if we're preparing young people for the world, then actually that is the global majority. And we're empowering young people, we're empowering ourselves to go beyond the tea and the coffee and the biscuits. And we're trying to journey alongside you wherever you are. And if that's where you've been in a position of displacement, or if you're in a position where you're trying to learn the English language, or you're just trying to find your place, if I can come alongside you, if I can understand you, if I can take the time to break down some of those barriers, then maybe our churches and our youth groups would be more diverse because of the sense of belonging that we create in those moments. So how can a youth group or leader help to support a young person experiencing some of those challenges? And that's the next slide, please. Next slide, please. So I'm not sure if you can see this, but this is some of the work that the Shades Project has been working hard at within our diocese in Manchester. And it's really about us creating safer spaces to have difficult conversations. And so we run workshops. One of them you'll be able to access today with my colleague Tasha. And this is about giving us the opportunity to have some uncomfortable conversations. I had one young person in a workshop that said, "Miss, I just feel that racism is all my fault as a white young boy." And I said, "It's not your fault, but the fact that you have that deep compassion, that deep compelling within you is actually an opportunity for us to use that. And to give you the equipment and the tools and the knowledge to say, I have compassion and I have empathy. I want to be a solution to this problem." We then, it's Black History Month, for those of you who might not know, it's celebrating October. And so we do a collective worship within our high schools and our churches, celebrating all things Black history. We're not just talking about things like slavery. We are trying to move forward into a place where we can educate ourselves, but also celebrate. And I know my time is up. Ben hasn't walked to the stage yet. However, I know my time is up. And I believe in timekeeping as a black woman, believe it or not. I believe in that. And so if you do want to find out more information about the Shades Project, feel free to come and chat to me. We're also on social media as well. But we believe in equipping and supporting churches and schools. So if it's something that, you know, you'd love to hear and learn more about, then feel free to come and have a chat with myself or Tasha. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hello?